You know, it's watching videos like this that lead me to believe that we're already exploring space. Whether it be passing over the Bahamas like in this shot from the ISS. Just look at that water. Unreal. Or passing over the Baltic Sea in Germany. Just a lovely sight. Difficult to even put it into words. Or this dynamic shot, where the Dragon resupply ship is being released by Canada's robotic arm. It's proven so reliable for us, not only on the ISS, but on the space shuttle as well. Just amazing. Or first-hand evidence of climate change, undeniable evidence from this titanic storm, unlike just about any storm we've ever observed, wreaking havoc on our planet, but looking so serene here. But in order to pass beyond low Earth orbit, we're going to need something new. A new type of transportation system that can haul heavy cargoes a great distance. And what we do not need is
the Space Launch System. SLS will be the most powerful rocket ever developed.
And with components in production
and more in testing,
this system is capable of being the catalyst for deep space missions.
Yeah, whatever. It is tragic indeed that some of the most talented engineers and scientists in the United States have been hard at work on this unbelievably expensive and inefficient piece of junk. And if we don't stop the SLS somehow, it is going to single-handedly destroy any hopes that NASA or anyone who has been naive enough to come along with us for the ride of getting to the moon, to Mars, or to any place else. Welcome to the second installment of I effing love Artemis, I effing hate Artemis on the Angry Astronaut. Before we get to the subject at hand, I need to talk about something. I've exceeded 1,100 views now, but 86% of my views have come from non-subscribers. People who have clicked on my videos, which I really appreciate, but haven't subscribed. Well, I've tried a number of crazy things to change that, but now I'm going to go ahead and get desperate. This is Lego's replica of something that I really hate, the SLS rocket system. But as much as I hate it, it's a gigantic rocket. It's ridiculously cool. It's worth $100. I got it for Christmas, but instead of building it myself, I'd rather give it to one of my subscribers. So here's the deal. If we can get to 100 subscribers by the end of January, giving it a little bit more time to get there, I'll be awarding this to one of my subscribers. In addition to that, I'll be giving away my original prize as a second prize, and a third prize as well. Plus, there's a few other ways that you can increase your chances of winning. Now, the marketing experts at YouTube would say that this is a crazy idea, that the only subscribers that I'm going to get are people who are going to want all these awesome Legos. But I don't think so, and here's why. I'm not giving away Avengers Legos, I'm not giving away Spider-Man Legos, I'm not giving away Star Wars Legos, and dear God, I'm not giving away Frozen Legos. I'm only giving away logo sets that specifically are associated with the US space program. So I think I'm going to get exactly the kind of subscribers that I'm looking for. Now, you may be thinking, oh, but I'm only going to have a 1 in 100 chance. Well, that's not actually true. A few of you actually guessed as to my station project and increased your chances of winning that way. But that's not your only way of winning, guys. There's another option. Post in the comments what you want my next topic to be about. It has to be something associated with space policy. It has to be something controversial and something that involves the solar system. So no hyperdrives or any of that sort of thing. I kind of want to narrow the subject. But pick a topic that you want me to cover. I will give you 2 entries into the giveaway if you just post a guess, or not a guess, but rather a topic. And if you happen to pick the topic that I choose, you'll get 10 entries and you will automatically win one of these. Nice little ship plus an astronaut and a satellite. So, becoming a subscriber just got a lot more attractive on the Angry Astronaut. And when it comes right down to it, I want my subscribers to enjoy being part of this channel anyway. Now, this is a man I'd love to have as a subscriber, but sadly I can't because he passed away back in 2017 at the age of 82. He was Gene Cernan, the last human being to ever set foot on another world. And believe it or not, my late uncle, George Nevin, worked with Mr. Cernan during the golden age of spaceflight at NASA. As a matter of fact, my uncle gave me an opportunity to watch the maiden flight of the Space Shuttle Challenger, something I will never forget. And this is the latest graduating class of astronauts who hope to walk in Gene's footsteps one day. And it saddens me to think that they may never get that opportunity because of what I'm about to discuss in this video. I hope I'm wrong. But unfortunately, the more I learn about the SLS, the more I'm convinced that I am not wrong. This thing has cost us $17 billion so far, $5 billion over budget. It should have flown years ago, and yet we still don't even have a prototype. It is sinking the entire Artemis budget, and yet it's almost impossible to get rid of. Why? Because the SLS is providing jobs in Mississippi, Alabama, and Louisiana, all strong Republican states with very powerful allies in the Trump administration. Very difficult to cancel. But cancel it we must, because although this thing is impressive and powerful, it's also unacceptably expensive and unimaginative. I'm going to try to explain that to you as we go through this NASA propaganda. So there's the beast itself, and if that fuel tank looks familiar, well, it's because it is. It's pretty much a copy of the space shuttle's fuel tank. The countdown's beginning, and there's their pathway to the moon, if and when that ever happens. Countdown has begun. Cha-ching! Cha-ching! With every passing moment. By the way, if those solid rocket boosters look familiar, well, that's because they are too, also pretty much copies of the space shuttle. So here we go. Admittedly, an extremely powerful rocket. More powerful than the Saturn V. More powerful than the space shuttle. More powerful than anything that has ever been launched.
almost 9 million pounds of thrust. And so we clear the simulated tower, make our way into orbit. And there goes the solid rocket boosters to burn up in the atmosphere because we don't reuse them. And there goes the fairings too. Same fate. And there goes the fuel tank. Everything burns up. Nothing is reused. Completely unacceptable and outdated. The separation of what will eventually become the Orion crew capsule. There's even parts of this that are non-reusable. There's our burn to take us to the moon, or rather to the lunar gateway. And we separate that engine, which also will not be reused. And what's left is the only thing that will be reused, and that's the Orion. Completely unacceptable.
So, how much is this going to cost? Well, hold on to your ass. You're looking at $1 billion per rocket. And that's after we finish developing and building the thing, which has cost $17 billion already and is most likely going to exceed $20 billion, or double what we said it was going to cost to begin with, or rather what NASA said it was going to cost. So $1 billion every time you launch an Orion capsule to the moon. And the Orion weighs in at 58,000 pounds. That's it. $1 billion to get 58,000 pounds to the moon. Or $17,500 per pound. But what can we do about that? I mean, if that's what it costs, that's what it costs, right?
I do believe that just about all of you have seen this thing go up at least once. Unlike the SLS, this is a rocket that exists, has flown several times without any serious problems, and has successfully transported some very heavy cargo into some very high orbits. The Falcon Heavy. I have to admit, I cried tears of joy when I saw this thing go up for the first time. Admittedly, this has only 5.1 million pounds of thrust. It's still the most powerful rocket on the planet currently, and it's actually flown. And it's just enough thrust to get the Orion into a geosynchronous transfer orbit. And then, the Orion could use its own engines to push it the rest of the way to the moon. And here's the most important part. We're watching the boosters separate. As I say, I'm sure most of you have seen this, but it's still wonderful to watch. I never get sick of it. The boosters maneuver their way back to Earth. And watch this. Tour de force in engineering. Boosters land side by side. When many engineers a few years ago said that that was completely impossible. And to top it all off, once their boosters are safely on the ground, SpaceX uses the Of Course I Still Love You retrieval ship to get the last of the boosters, reusing the vast majority of the rocket. And here's the really good news.
$90 million. $90 million. Less than 1/10 the price. So, for the cost of one SLS launch, you could send the Orion to the lunar gateway at least 10 and maybe 11 times. Why the hell do we not do that? Well, Jim Bridenstine had an opportunity to address that particular question, and this is what he had to say.
There is another solution out there, a Falcon Heavy with an ICPS at the top. Talk about strange bedfellows. a Falcon Heavy with an ICPS at the top, with a European service module and Orion crew capsule, that ultimately has the ability to put us to potentially, gosh, Gerst is going to be so mad at me for saying all this. But at the end of the day, by the way, none of this was cleared by Gerstenmaier. He's still the best rocket scientist that we have. No insult to anybody else in the room. So going back to at the end of the day, there is a solution here that could potentially work for the future. It would require time, it would require cost, and there is risk involved. But guess what? If we're going to land boots on the moon in 2024, we have time, and we have the ability to accept some risk, make some modifications. All of that is on the table. There is nothing sacred here that is off the table. And that is a potential capability that could help us land boots on the moon in 2024. I don't want to take away for 1 second the best option to get us to the lunar orbit as soon as possible is SLS and an Orion with the European service module. There is nothing that beats that capability, and right now what we're doing is everything possible to accelerate that. So instead of doing things in series...
Well, actually, Jim, you're wrong. SLS is not the best way. And I'm going to show some very simple reasons as to why. When we come to the end of it, I have to admit, I'm beginning to wonder whether or not you're lying to us about all this for the benefit of your allies at Boeing.
Assuming everything goes to plan, the first SLS mission will arrive at the moon in 2024 for a total stay of 30 days. Now, during this time, they'll be improving the SLS to the Block 2 version, capable of hauling bigger cargoes for future missions. And here's where the problem comes in. All future SLS missions will happen only once a year and only with a 30-day crew duration until 2028. So this is not going to the moon to stay. Not even close. More like a summer vacation to the Lunar Gateway once a year for 30 days on each visit. The rest of the time, the Gateway remains unoccupied. Now, thank God, the Gateway is going to be constructed by commercial missions. But who in their right mind is going to support an idea that sends your most important resources, people, to the moon for only 30 days out of the year and leaves the place unoccupied for the other 11 months?
So why do we have this ridiculously unambitious schedule that puts astronauts on the Lunar Gateway or the moon less than 1/10 of the time every year? Well, I think the answer is pretty obvious. Expense. If each of your rockets costs $1 billion and also takes a considerable amount of time to produce and burns up every time you launch it, you can't launch any more than once a year. So, as time goes on, and Congress continues to see just how ineffective this plan is, and just how much of a pipe dream the whole idea of putting humans on the moon to stay really was, how long are they really going to continue to support it? Year after year, billions of dollars after billions of dollars. I really don't think it's going to last. And that's what's going to doom the Artemis project. Maybe not in 2024, maybe not in 2025, but eventually. People will support a space station that is occupied continuously, as they have with the ISS. They're not going to support a lunar gateway that is sitting empty the vast majority of the time, which is exactly what's going to happen because of SLS. That's why we need a different option. And if we had the Falcon Heavy, we could come very close to keeping astronauts on the lunar gateway full time. In other words, going to the moon to stay. Wasn't that what we were promised?
If Artemis is to survive, we need to scrap SLS and start investing in more innovative solutions, such as the Falcon Heavy or the SpaceX Starship, which I haven't even mentioned, which could carry 3 Orion capsules in its cargo bay. A much more efficient transport method. If we fail to do this and continue with SLS, I fear that Gene Cernan will be the last human being in human history to ever walk on the surface of the moon, period. I'm the Angry Astronaut, and stay angry about space.